This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.
All right, two very important people, both of whom have been instrumental in allowing us to hear some of the most popular music in the 20th and 21st centuries. It's Derek Shulman. Now, if you're a fan of Gentle Giant, you certainly know that name. He's also a very successful record company executive, having been intimately involved in the careers of Bon Jovi, AC/DC, Bad Company, Nickelback, Slipknot, many more. The list goes on. His new memoir, Giant Steps, My Improbable Journey from Stage Lights to Executive Heights. You can get the book at Amazon right now, which I highly recommend. And we have Tony Visconti in the studio with us, legendary record producer of many of David Bowie's seminal albums, including David's final album, Black Star, in 2016, along with T-Rex, other artists, and Moody Blues, many other bands over the years. Tony wrote the foreword for this book, for Derek's memoir, and produced the first two Gentle Giant albums. Derek, I'll start with you. The title Giant Steps, I immediately thought of John Coltrane.
Yeah.
Did that come into your head as well? Obviously, Gentle Giant, I get it, but...
I only realized it after we decided what the name of the book was going to be. But, I looked it up, and there's about 10 other titles, but we figured... Giant Steps, Giant and Steps, and John Coltrane's one is probably better than mine, but that's okay.
Yeah, totally. Now, you started this band in England with your brothers. The band was Simon Dupree and the Big Sound, a wildly popular pop group in England and Europe, or what people thought was pop back at the time, out of Portsmouth in England. Then you took a hard left turn musically and formed the highly influential prog rock group Gentle Giant, made many albums, and then you segued into becoming a very successful record company executive. Now, here is Elton John on you, Derek. Many years ago, I had the privilege of playing with Simon Dupree and the Big Sound on a tour of Scotland. It was a joyous experience. The band were fabulous musicians and great guys and treated me so well, which you go into the book, and those are fascinating stories. Looking at this book cover, for the fans watching this on our YouTube channel, the cover has a picture of you as the lead singer and also an animated character from the Gentle Giant era. Who is the character? What did he do?
The Gentle Giant character?
This guy, right?
Well,
here.
I'm going to blame the guy, excuse me, the guy next to me who introduced me to the person who who actually painted this picture. Tony, he was working with David Bowie, and David Bowie's best friend was a guy called George Underwood.
That's right. George Underwood was a fantastic graphic artist. He's still alive, so he still is a fantastic graphic artist.
God bless him.
But I commissioned him to do that. I'm sure I had the band's permission to do it.
Oh, I said, Tony, anything you wanted to do.
But he did the Space Oddity cover. He did a lot of album covers, and he still, till this day, is doing amazing ones. And he always he did the T-Rex My People Are Fair, that with the very long title I won't go into now. But that was a real fantasy cover with dragons and flying things, and there was all kinds of bubbles all over it. So he can really go the distance when you ask him to do something far out and weird. He'll do it, and he was very reliably did it. By the way, George is the guy who punched David in the eye on a school bus and gave him that two different colored eyes.
Yeah.
The story goes that George had a date with a girlfriend, and they were to meet at the town square in Bromley, Kent, at 7:00, and David phoned the girl and said, George told me that you should be there at 6:45. So David went there at 6:45. There was the girl, and he said, oh, I'm sorry, George is not coming. So they had a date, The next day on the school bus, George walked right up to David and punched him right in the eye, totally unexpected. And that eye had been dilated since that moment. He wasn't blind, but he couldn't, and he had to put his hand over his eye if he walked out in bright sunlight. It just wouldn't contract on its own.
And they were friends after that, I'm sure.
David felt he deserved it. He was really good about it. He was really good about it, and they remained friends for years. And George did more work for him, for me.
I love it. Derek, here's Ian Anderson on Gentle Giant. The intensity of Gentle Giant's performances sometimes extended from stage to dressing room after their show, when a noisy post-mortem might erupt into murderous fraternal screaming matches over a missed semi-quaver or less than perfect vocal harmony. Spirited bunch, the Giants, in full flow. Move over, Kane. Step aside, Abel. Now that is a quote for a book. I mean, come on.
That's Ian. Yeah, he certainly. Well, listen, we owed a lot to Jethro Tull in the fact that they took us out in both Europe and the USA and North America, should I say, and we got along really well both personally, and obviously their audience, they were already huge, and their audience was very accommodating to Gentle Giant. So yeah, but you know, we became friends, so we'd hang out in each other's dressing rooms. Unfortunately, you know, Ian and the guys might see a bit of sibling rivalry, if you like. You know, especially with my elder brother Phil, and we were kind of perfectionists in some respects. Well, Tony would know.
And you were also like 20 or something,
yeah,
right?
I was 20, and you know, and yeah, I'm hot-headed, and so was my brother Phil. And we were, again, we'd like to make sure that every note that we rehearsed and every song and everything we rehearsed would be perfect. If it was like a slight bit off, we'd go in afterwards and not kind of say, well, let's take it easy. It was a great show. We just go into each other. And then we back off and say, okay, that was enough. But Ian and the band would hear this and say, wow, these guys are going to kill each other, you know, but we didn't. And we kept you know, we kept going, and we had a good 10 years.
Here's John Bon Jovi on you. Derek Shulman was there before there was a there. We grew together as a team. We learned as we lived. He was the one real A&R man that we could count on when we needed him. So, yeah, you segued into this record company world and being executive, I think first in radio promotion, correct?
Initially, yes, in the first year. I was,
and then into the A&R department.
Yep.
And was it the first band that you signed, or one of the first that you signed was Bon Jovi?
John Bon Jovi.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yes, yep. Well, the good thing is that I had the experience of both being in Simon Dupree, if you like, and that was a great apprenticeship, just for stagecraft and everything else, and being in a pop band. But then, of course, being in Gentle Giant, and there wasn't much a band could say to me that I haven't done. They couldn't say, you don't know what it's like to sleep on a bus. You don't know what it's like to, you know, to not have any money in your pocket, because I could relate to everything a band is. So
getting in the van and, you know, no money, no food, you know.
Whatever. So any band that said you don't know what it's like, well, I did, you know, and I could also play a chord or two that just says, why don't you try this, etc. So,
well, it's nice when the A&R guy is actually a musician. That doesn't seem to happen a lot, especially these days.
Well, today is a whole different animal. I don't even know what today means anymore. Tony probably knows better than me. But
how many followers do you have? How many views do you have on TikTok? Okay, we'll sign you.
Yeah, I understand it, but I don't understand it.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
We got to speak about Bad Company. This year they go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What was your involvement with them?
I basically resurrected them and with a different singer. In fact, they were signed to Atlantic, and they were going to be dropped. And I said that I think that they have life, and the manager came to me and said, we're going to be dropped. How about Atco picks them up? And I knew the new singer, Brian Howe, very well, because he came from the same town as me in England.
Oh, Portsmouth. Okay,
yep.
Yeah.
And he used to come to our rehearsals, in fact. And Brian had a bit of a hot head and a big mouth, to be honest with you. And I could say to Brian, hey, Brian, shut the F up.
Yeah.
And get away with it. Whereas Mick Ralphs and Simon Kirke weren't really able to do that with Brian. But Brian was a great singer, but didn't have much discretion with the rest of the band that he was in. And Bad Company is a band that has an incredible legacy and heritage. Anyway, I took over their contract, and we put out Holy Water, and it became a huge record. And from there on, it was they were on the ups again.
Derek Shulman and Tony Visconti with us in the studio. Derek's book is Giant Steps, My Improbable Journey from Stage Lights to Executive Heights. You guys are going to be at Rough Trade down below this coming Thursday. That would be October 9th at 6 p.m. What's going to happen there? Kind of like a book signing, kind of a Q&A, like...
Yeah, all of the above, I believe. This is...
Okay.
Yeah. That's exactly what I hope. I hope there's people there or books to be signed.
Tony, you produced the first two Gentle Giant albums, I think. How did you guys meet, and how did that come about?
We had a mutual friend in Jerry Braun, who was their manager. And, what's Ellen Braun is? It's his sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's his wife's name?
Lillian they divorced.
Yeah, okay. So I knew I was involved with the Braun family somehow, and I think I did a Osibisa for them.
Osibisa, yeah.
Yeah, so the Anglo-African group Osibisa was the first time an African band recorded a pop record in London, and that was tough work. It was almost as tough as working with Gentle Giants. Disparate guys in the band fighting, punch-ups, and you didn't.
Was that frustrating for you when they wanted to take we didn't get that one hi-hat sound just right? We need to do that again 20 times.
It was like minutia like that.
Yeah.
They got angry very, very quickly. Derek and the band control their tempers better.
Yeah.
But that band was really hard. But I had I produced 2 of their records. Both were number ones in Europe, like in the
Amazing.
UK at least.
At the time.
Great
yeah.
albums, actually.
And one of them is still alive, and I had coffee with him about 6 weeks ago in London.
Okay.
And they came from both the Caribbean islands, and Africa, and they didn't mix quite well. They had differences of just attitude, and the Caribbeans had a lot of chord changes and melodic stuff, even jazzy, but the Africans had the beat.
Yeah.
The beat was incredible.
Yeah.
Big drums that they play with their hands, and a guy called Sol Amafio was the drummer. He must have been about 75 years old. But he cooked. He made those drums. You'd think he was an octopus the way he played it. He hit so many drums, and I don't know how he did it.
Right. So through them, Gentle Giant.
I passed that test. That was really an acid test, And then I got Gentle Giant, who weren't difficult, but they were complicated musically, very complicated.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
And luckily, I don't have a degree in music, but I majored in high school in music, so I could compose, I could write out scores. I played several instruments, upright bass.
Well, you're a bass player, yeah.
But all the basses I could play, even the 8-string bass I could play, and things like that. But mainly I was an arranger, and their arrangements were brilliant. I almost didn't have to do anything except get it down right, absolutely get it down right. And I don't know if I'll bring this up, but there's musically. They were so far advanced that I don't know if any other producer could have done what I did, because in one of their songs, you have 4/4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you have three beats like a waltz, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They had a bar of music that was 15/16ths, and so 16/16ths is like a whole.
Sounds
beat.
more complicated than Frank Zappa.
Yeah, it's a whole. Yeah, it's like that. It was like Frank Zappa, and I had to awkwardly punch in a vocal right after 15 ended. So
And this was tape.
Yeah, this is tape. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and hit the button.
Wow.
And you did it.
I did it. Yeah, one time. I couldn't have done it 2 times.
Oh man, that's so. You did 2 albums with Gentle Giant.
Yeah, and they were wonderful, just wonderful people to work with. Such professional people. I wasn't really privy to any arguments. They kind of.
No, that was more stage work. But Tony,
Yeah.
I will say this: Tony encouraged us, and literally encouraged us to go for it.
Yeah.
You really did. You
I did.
encouraged us to be who we were, and that was the first album we'd ever made. I mean, we recorded before at Abbey Road as my first group, but having Tony there was like for the band. And I'll say this to Tony next to me here: had it not been for Tony being around on the first 2 records, I don't think Gentle Giant would have been what we were, because he both oversaw what we were musically. He saw something in us musically that he loved as well, and also encouraged us to experiment more, and even played on the records. I mean, he said, "What about putting some recorders on?" We said, "We don't have we can't play recorders." Tony said, "I can," and he did, in fact, on both albums.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
We gave each other a lot of permission. I
Yeah.
didn't hold them back. I didn't want them to make a pop album. I didn't
exactly.
want to clean this up and make it all dance beats and all that. I really wanted them. I was frustrated because as I said, I'm a trained musician. I studied music, and I was making a lot of pop records, which are fun up to a point. But if that's all you do, then it makes Jack a dull boy.
Yeah.
So I was so turned on by this band. I could do anything with them. If they gave me something that was far out, I could say to them, let's make it more far out.
Yeah,
Right.
that's exactly what Tony did.
Right.
He said, "Let's go."
And it
for
was what, 1969, 70? What?
70, 71.
Yeah, 70, 71.
Yeah.
So the environment was ripe for that.
Well,
Well, there was no prog rock yet. This
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah.
This is the birth of prog rock. Well, it wasn't called that just yet, but they started.
Was
a
King
trend.
Crimson and Yes around then or no?
just started, I think.
Just started,
we
yeah.
We were all kind of like starting in various places.
Right.
But we didn't. We weren't aware of anything that was going on, and we were just a band in Portsmouth, and we luckily found, or Jerry Braun found Tony to produce our records, and I thought about. I was looking at the people that we worked with, or you had working with us. They all turned. I mean, in the first album, the engineer was Roy Thomas Baker.
Yes.
And
Wow.
the second album, we had Martin Russian.
Yeah.
Chris Thomas was the
yeah.
Moog
Moog,
operator. And who was the engineer? I'm trying to think.
At Trident.
Bill Price.
Oh, Bill Price. Yeah.
Yeah, all these people who Tony basically mentored became like massive, well-known producers.
Yeah.
I mean, and so we luckily Gentle Giant was a recipient of Tony having the right people around him as well to make our Gentle Giant. So.
You mentioned Abbey Road, the mothership. I think, and I believe you both, obviously, you've worked there and had some connection with some of the bands that were famous for working there as well, like Pink Floyd. You both have worked with or even hung out with various Beatles over the years. Any great anecdotes that either of you would like to share about, being in that studio with, say, Pink Floyd and or a Beatle or the Beatles?
Well, you want to go ahead first, Tony?
I did all the orchestrations on Band on the Run.
Yeah.
And that was a very, very funny experience because Paul phoned me on, say, a Friday, and he said, "I've just done this album in Africa, and I've got all these tracks, and I'm asking, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Those T-Rex strings, did you write them?" I said, "Yes, I did." And meanwhile, I'm a bit shaking. I've got Paul McCartney on the other end of the phone.
I can imagine. Yeah.
He's on the other end, yeah. So he said, "Do you know how to read and write music?" And I said, "Yes, I can." He goes, "Okay, could you come over to my house in St. John's Wood, London, this tomorrow," something like that. Oh, this was Friday. He said Sunday. So I said, "Sure, I'll come over." And I got all my manuscript paper together, my sharpened pencils, and I go over there, and he opens the door, and there he is. There's Paul McCartney. It's not the first time I met him, but I knew this was going to be a long session. It was the first time we were going to sit down and work together on something. This was, the only other person who wrote orchestrations was George Martin.
Right.
And now he's not using George Martin. George Martin was on vacation, on holiday, and so Paul is not one to wait for anything. If he wants something done, it's got to be done now. And that's the way I was put under that kind of pressure. So I after I sat at the piano with him and he played on his cassette player, he played just snippets of where he wanted trumpets and another snippet where he wanted violins and all that. He wouldn't give me the whole song because he was terrified of me bootlegging the album.
Wow.
So
That's
I have this little cassette.
Harder to do then than it is now.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, much harder. Yeah.
So have this cassette with him, telling me what he wants, where he wants it. I have since lost that cassette, so don't ask me to find it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I go home and I start writing and writing and writing, and I stayed up for almost the entire 3 days before I had to go there on Wednesday morning. So this was Sunday afternoon. I went home, I started writing. Monday, Tuesday, I wrote all day long. It was a big thing. No time to send the manuscripts to a copyist. I copied it myself in India ink. In those days, you had India ink and all that. And luckily, I had a mentor who taught me how to write like that.
Yeah.
And so I showed up Wednesday morning absolutely shattered.
Yeah.
Absolutely like bags on my bags under my eyes.
Yeah.
But it was just a great experience to work with the man. He was terrific. And we had a great time together the whole day. And we had it mapped out where we started with the big band, with the big orchestra. So we did that thing at the end of the intro that Linda McCartney's doing the da-ya-ya-ya-ya, that bit. So the part that comes in, da-da-da-da-da-da-dun-dun-dun, that's the first time you hear the whole orchestra. And there was no count-in. It was just guess every time. And I would raise my baton and bring them in, and it might be too late.
You're talking about
time.
Band on the Run, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second time it was too early. They came in too early. The next time it was too late because there was no click track and all that. Finally, I don't know how we got it. Take 7. We finally got the band to come in together, and it sounds perfect. And luckily, McCartney's a perfectionist too.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have had it any other way. He wouldn't have had it sloppy and all that. So that would, to me, that was terrific. It was around, it was not too far from after I met Gentle Giant.
Right, yeah. Derek, how about you? Beatles anecdotes? Pink Floyd. I know there's a Sid Barrett one.
This is we didn't know the Beatles that well, but certainly we saw them. And we recorded as Simon Dupree and the Big Sound at Abbey Road the whole time. Every single we did was at Abbey Road, and we saw just about every musician that recorded there, because you had 3-hour sessions in those days.
Yep.
You literally went in for 3 hours, did your single, and then you went out, and the next band would come in, and they had staff producers, and George Martin was one, and Jeff Emmerich and all these other people were there, were also there. But certainly one situation which I've noted in the book was where when John and Yoko had their bed brought into the studio in Studio 2, and being the idiots that we were, we went in and said, wow, there's a bed in the studio. Let's go play trampoline on it. So me and Phil, my brother Phil, took our shoes off, and and the control room was up in up in the stairs, and we were, this is great, before we start the session, let's trampoline. And when down came the stairs, we just saw 2 people coming down very slowly, and it was John and Yoko. And we thought, oh.
Yeah.
And John looked at us and said, get off that damn. But Yoko said something a little harder.
Really?
So we slunk off. We said, oh, really sorry. And we slunk upstairs to the control room. And that was our first meeting with the Beatles. We ran into, actually, believe it or not, George Harrison at Trident when we were doing our first album. I don't know what he was doing there, but that was another situation. But
I think he did My Sweet Lord there.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
That was probably that situation. Yeah. But that was something that, and at the same time, they left their instruments in Abbey Road because they had the run of it. They didn't do 3-hour sessions. They were, whenever they wanted to come in, they came in, and we used their mellotron and their Gretsch guitar and on a couple of songs that we.
You're lucky to play those instruments.
It was amazing.
Oh, so cool.
Had they known, I think we would have been, hung, drawn, and quartered. I don't know.
I bet you couldn't play the left-handed bass.
No, that I couldn't do. You're right.
Tony, it's been almost, 10 years since David Bowie has passed. From your perspective, has his public perception of him evolved over these last 9+ years or so? Has it become larger? The legend grows, or just from your perspective, because you knew him so well?
Well, he's got the stature of a saint now.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook all the time, and I mean, I'll just scroll down every 4 posts. There's a Bowie picture, They're still finding photographs of him. Same thing with Mark Bolan, by the way. I'm seeing more photos of Bowie and Mark Bolan.
You know what? So am I.
Than I did when they were alive. You know, so they are both legends. But
Yeah.
David is considered a saint. You know, he's untouchable. He's wonderful. And
Speaking of Facebook, I'm going to read something, and I can send this to you. I forget who posted it, but here it goes. October 24th, 1974. Bowie's working on a cover of Bruce Springsteen's "It's Hard to Be a Saint in the City," which he had started in late 1973 and hoped to get Springsteen involved. Earlier in the week, Tony Visconti called Philadelphia DJ Ed Shockey at WMMR, asked him if he could get Springsteen into the studio. Shockey got in contact with Springsteen, who caught a bus from New Jersey to Philadelphia, where Ed and Judy Shockey found him hanging with the bums in the station. At midnight, he arrived at Sigma Sound. Please elaborate.
that's very true. I was listening to Ed Shockey all the time, and he knew me, so luckily we were friends. There's also Mike Tierson, who was also a DJ on that
WMMR Philly,
yeah.
rock station,
So
yeah.
I had two friends there. So he actually, on my way to the studio, I heard that he said Bruce Springsteen just left. He was being interviewed by Shockey. So I said, what? And I knew what David thought of
So this is 74.
Yeah.
So Greetings from Asbury Park was already out. The debut album, I think, was
Yes,
already out.
Yeah, and Bowie bought it, and he loved him. He just loved the freshness of Bruce Springsteen and the naturalness. And so I told David, I said, I think I can get Springsteen here. Would you like that? And he goes, and he was like trepidatious. He said, you know, he couldn't believe it, you know. So I phoned Shockey. I said, please get Springsteen. And he as soon as he went off the air, he got in his car and he found him, you know, as Derek said, and brought him to the studio. And Springsteen was shocked when he walked in because Bowie was in his regalia.
Yeah.
You know, he was the thin white duke by this time. His hair was orange.
Yeah.
And look a little like Bozo the Clown, actually. And but Springsteen was just, he was agape. You know, he didn't know what to say. So we played that track for him, and he was expressionless. He couldn't even smile. He was just shocked that David Bowie recorded "It's Hard to Be a Saint in the City," you know. So there was an off room. There was a kind of a lounge, a private one, where David, it was his room basically, and he and Bruce went into that lounge. And I never heard the conversation, but they spoke to each other for a long time, and I'm sure both of them were very happy to meet each other.
Really cool. We are speaking with Derek Shulman and Tony Visconti. Derek's new book is Giant Steps, My Improbable Journey from Stage Lights to Executive Heights. You can get that on Amazon. Both of you, your thoughts on the Oasis reunion. I'll start with you, Derek.
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Did you like Oasis? Were you a Blur guy? Like what?
Kind of. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that it was a bit when they first started. I mean, I kind of liked a couple of songs, but they were kind of a throwback of something that had happened before. And so I wasn't living in England at that point. I lived in New York. So they were pleasant songs, but I didn't feel the big vibe that they had over in England.
Right.
They had a couple of decent songs, but I wasn't a major fan and someone who thought they were God's gifted music.
Wonderwall, Champagne
Good
Supernova.
songs.
Yeah.
Really good songs, but not like wow. Like when I first heard "Love Me Do," the world changed for me.
Yeah.
That really did. I mean, when I first saw the Beatles' first ever concert in Portsmouth, I took off school literally to see them. The world changed for me and everyone else in England. You came over right after that, I think.
Yeah.
But the Beatles and the Stones, they started, and for me they were everything, and that made me as a schoolboy say, I went to grammar school, instead of going to university and becoming a scientist, philosopher, a physician, I said I want to be a rock star when I heard "Love Me Do" on the radio.
And now Oasis is playing stadiums around the world, which is...
Well, are they doing it around the world? I think they are
around
now.
the world, yeah. How about you, Tony? What do you think?
Not my cup of tea.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like them at all. I didn't like their interviews. Very, sarcastic and, I don't know, egotistical.
Yep.
And all that. And like what Derek was describing, like that Beatles phenomenon will only happen once.
Yeah,
It's
I
never going
think
to
you're
happen
right,
again.
yeah.
Other people came close to it, but nothing like. Prior to the Beatles, kids used to dress like their parents, and once they heard "Love Me Do" and all that, and then they saw those collared, those tailored clothes and all that.
Beatle boots, don't forget them.
It wasn't
collars,
only
right.
music changed; just kids
everything.
changed. Kids turned into they said, "I'm not going to be like my mom and dad. I'm going to be like them."
Yeah.
And that was, and I was one of those kids. I mean, I was about sort of. Beatlemania happened when I was about 19 years old.
Did you watch Ed Sullivan and 60?
Yeah, I watched the Ed Sullivan. I saw them
Right.
live on there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I didn't go to Shea Stadium. I wouldn't because the screaming. I knew I wasn't going to hear them. But my goal was to. I had this impetus. I have got to leave America. I have got to go to London, and I have got to meet the Beatles. And all that happened. I met
Very cool.
I met every one of the Beatles.
Fantastic. Well, the new book is Giant Steps from Derek Shulman, My Improbable Journey from Stage Lights to Executive Heights. You can get it on Amazon right now. Derek and Tony Visconti, who wrote the foreword to the book, will be at a Rough Trade down below. That is October 9th, Thursday, 6 p.m., doing a Q&A and record signing. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Can I just say one thing about Gentle Giant?
Absolutely.
Because I guess the internet, I am often recognized on the street and people stop me and say, "Tony, I want to congratulate you for fill in the blank." The most I am congratulated for is my Gentle Giant work.
That's fantastic.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
That is great. You would normally think, okay, David Bowie, everybody knows that you worked with David, but it's Gentle Giant you get the most love
I
on.
get some of those, but it's Gentle Giant is the most,
Fantastic.
Tony, as I said, really, had it not been for Tony and his expertise in and his allowance of allowing the band to be Gentle Giant and encouraging us to be experimental, to do what we wanted to do, and also have musical training, I don't think we'd have been the band who we were. So I can't thank Tony enough for being there at the beginning, seriously, and encouraging us to be who we are.
We helped each other a lot.
Yeah,
Derek.
we did.
It went two ways.
And
Thank
we're
you.
blessed that you both are still here because that was a long time ago.
Certainly.
And, you got your health, you got everything. So fantastic. Yeah. Derek, Tony, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.